If you watched my 2 previous videos, you'll not only know that this is a Coda, but you'll know that it's one of my Codas. One of my 2 Codas, in fact. This is the roadworthy of my 2 Codas. Except, I filmed those videos in the future. Right now, it's the past. And as it sits right now, this Coda is far from roadworthy. It was sitting abandoned, neglected, and forgotten about in a California driveway for a couple of years, baking in the sun. And it's developed a small number of minor issues that prevent it from being a good roadworthy car. So what we're going to do today is go around this Coda, fix all the issues that it has so that I can put it back on the road again. And so I can make those 2 videos that you've already seen. During the couple of years this car served as a rather bland-looking driveway ornament, it was also serving as a hotel for rats. Mostly they just littered the car with rat sparkles in various places, but they also chewed through the wiring, right here, and possibly other places that I haven't seen yet. The previous owner told me that this harness goes to the water pump, or one of the water pumps. I don't remember if he said there were 1 or 2 water pumps. But anyway, when I plug up the car to charge the battery pack, it only charges up the battery pack by about 10% before the charger overheats. So it seems likely that there is something wrong with the coolant system, and it seems likely that this would be the culprit, since there's some wires that have been chewed through. Thankfully, this is just a standard 6-pin Deutsch connector, of which I have bought a new one, so all I have to do is clip off these old wires, put a new Deutsch connector on the end here, and then plug everything back up. The 12-volt lead-acid battery in the trunk was dead, so I got a new one. And rather interestingly, it's specifically made for the Mazda Miata and Codas, apparently. Plug in the little vent lines for acid spills. Because of dry rot, all of these tires have more cracks in them than a Detroit sidewalk, and they're totally shot. The front left tire, that one right there, doesn't even hold air, so I need to replace all the tires. Also, something I just discovered. Either both of these front wheels have exceedingly terrible bearings, or there's something loose in here, but I'd be willing to bet I'm going to have to replace the wheel bearings in both of these front wheels. You know, it's a shame that there's so much dry rot in these tires, because this car has less than 1,000 miles on it and the tread is, well, brand new. Go ahead and investigate this wheel bearing so that if I need to, I can order more. Oops. Not exactly what I intended to happen there. Oops, you gotta unplug the ABS sensor. Just get the half shaft out of the way. There's the half shaft out of the way. And that just pulls right up. Take this big old clip out of here. Alright, I went to the bench grinder and ground little notches in the end of my needle nose pliers, so maybe they won't slip out now. Grinder sure is noisy over there. Yay, it worked! Oh, ow! Still got it out, so whatever. First I need to push the hub out of the bearing, hopefully using this gear puller setup, and then I need to push the bearing out of the carrier this way using my press. This is probably all just gonna pop off without any progress happening. Oh! What happened? Oh, nothing. Oh. That's the sound of progress, I think, I hope. Yay! Everything fell apart. That's a good thing. Woohoo! Here's the wheel bearing. And here's some of the rest of it. It may have broken a bit. Now all I have to do is reference the part numbers off of this and hopefully find 2 new wheel bearings that I can install into the Coda. I ordered 2 new wheel bearings, but they're going to take a little bit to get here. So while I'm waiting to gather my bearings, I'm going to move on to some lighter tasks, starting with this license plate holder that I accidentally broke. Now when I broke this thing, I didn't give 2 Don Rickles about it because it's a license plate holder. That was until I took the license plate off and realized this is a Coda branded license plate holder. And it made me a little bit sad that I broke it. Until I remembered I have a parts car, so I stole this off of it, and now all I have to do is swap these two out. It's really nice having a parts car. Good as new. This door handle is broken. Now you might think that I could just pull the working door handle off of the parts Coda, swap it out, and be good. Except the left rear door handle on the parts Coda is also broken. And that's the only door handle that will work. These door handles are not the same front and back. The front ones have keyholes in them, and they're not swappable side to side. I know that because this is the right rear door handle that I pulled off of the parts Coda, and the mechanism is very clearly stamped with an R for the right side of the car. It does not work upside down. It's not swappable side to side. But the good news is, I don't need this whole door handle assembly. The only thing I need is this broken plastic part, which is the same on all four door handles. So I can just take this good plastic part and swap it into that door handle. But first I need to take this broken door handle out of the door. Problem! This door won't open. The inside door handle has also stopped working. So I'm going to have to somehow try to open this door by taking the door panel off from the inside with the door closed. So wish me luck. I don't think it'll be all that easy. All right, I'm going in. Wish me luck. Huh? I got it! I got it! No! Blind luck! It's taking me quite far. Okay, now I can take this door panel the rest of the way off. There's some weird metal pin in here instead of the standard plastic push pin, which calls for the reinforcements, aka drilling it up. Ow. Now we just have this little nut and this screw. See if we get the door handle. It just slides forward, It just slides, it slides forward. Yes, there we go. There we go. Okay, well, it came out. As I said, these door handles are mirror images of each other. These mechanisms are not swappable side to side, but the part that matters, the door handle bit here, the plastic bit that's broken, is the same on both sides. So I just need to extract this door handle piece from this right side door handle assembly, which unfortunately I think means removing this fitted little spring clip here, and then I can transfer it over to this piece and discard that broken bit. I can just push out this little pin, being careful to not to let the spring into my eye. That's that. Now I can extract the good door handle. It's not broken. You can see where the piece broke here. Just this little piece of plastic broke off. It's very likely this will happen again on another door handle, but for now, I'll just swap over the piece and not worry about it. Now I have to get this pin to go underneath this plastic bit here, which means more spring clip destroying. Put the new door handle in place. This would be relaxing work if you were a psychopath. I have to put the pin back in while it's under spring tension. This is so easy. There we go. Put the little clip back in place, even though it probably won't stay because I think I destroyed it. I think that's good. Now I just need to throw it back into the door. All right, now I can just clip the rod back in place. All right, it slots into place. And pull back on it. Screw the little nut back in place for the front of the door handle. And put this little screw in the end here for the back of the door handle. Now let's test it. That opens. Let's test the inside door lock now. That works too. I don't know what was wrong with the inside door handle before, but it works now. Okay, let's put everything back together. Yay! I have a functioning door handle. That was like 10 times harder than I expected it to be. The trunk on a Coda is open via an electric popper on the inside, and the one in this car isn't working properly. When you hit the button, it makes noise and everything, but the trunk doesn't open, which is a problem because the only alternative way to open up this trunk is to climb inside the car, climb through the back seats, and open the trunk from the inside using the emergency release handle, which is a convenient way to open the trunk if you're being kidnapped, but otherwise is pretty annoying. So let's tear into here and see what I need to do. I preemptively pulled the trunk popper off of the parts car, but I don't actually know if I'll need it. Let's see what's going on here. Now, what does this do when I hit the button? It moved. All right, let's try the easiest thing first. Let's swap out this trunk popper from the one out of the parts car and see if it fixes anything. Put the new one in. New popper is in. Let's quote unquote latch the trunk and see if that made any difference at all. Probably not. Oh, no, it worked perfectly. Perfect. That was the easiest fix ever. Oh, now, oh, come on. It's not working now. Well, that was an easy mystery to solve. I took both of these poppers apart and neither one of them worked because they're both physically broken. As you can see, this little plastic part of the mechanism here is fractured into pieces in both of these poppers. And I suspect we watched this one break because it did actually pop the trunk of the car a couple of times before it stopped working entirely. So what that means is these trunk poppers are no good, and if I get another one, it's likely going to break in the exact same way, so I'm going to have to design my own trunk popper at some point in the future, likely using this linear solenoid that I have around. But that's for another day. In the meantime, I guess I'll just keep opening this trunk like a hostage. It's only a little annoying. I made my own trunk popper, and it works. Remember that linear solenoid that I just showed you? I used that as the base. I modified it by cutting the rod attachment point off of the old trunk popper and crudely riveting it onto the end of the push rod of the linear solenoid. Then I connected the loose ends of the solenoid to a Deutsch connector, because why not? I had them lying around now. And then to attach that linear solenoid, which now pushes the latch open rather than pulling it, into the trunk, I had to make a bracket. I started with a cardboard template and then traced the lines and holes onto a piece of steel. Then I drilled and cut. And the linear solenoid just screws to the back of this bracket like so it can do the pushies on the trunk latch. And to attach this bracket inside the trunk lid, I used riv nuts. And this bracket just screws into those riv nuts. Now I can just clip on the connecting rod and then connect the two Deutsch connectors, which just wires into the previous connection for the trunk popper. And now, it works! And it works well, and it works a lot better than the old trunk popper did, you know, when it was working. And it's all completely hidden under this cover like it came from the factory. The wheel bearings have arrived, both of them. And these were actually fairly hard to find because the part number that was listed on the box and the product description is not at all what's listed on the bearing itself. I actually had to use some sort of bearing part number cross-reference website to even find these things, but I did, and they're here. So now let's get started installing these on the car, starting rather naturally with the side that's already dismantled, the front left. I have some concerns about these wheel bearings. They have no shielding in them. There is nothing keeping the grease in the rollers and the dirt out of the rollers. At least on the front side of the wheel bearing where the hub is, the hub provides some direct shielding to the rollers, even though there is still a gap between the hub and the carrier where dirt can get in. But on the back side of the bearing, there's nothing at all. On the back side is where the CV shaft fits in, and what's directly in front of the unshielded rollers is the ABS sensor ring on the CV shaft. And that's not going to do diddly squat at keeping dirt out of the bearings and keeping the bearings safe. Now, as I said, I ordered direct replacements for what came out of the car. And I know the wheel bearings that came out of the Coda had all sorts of wobble in them, but I don't know if the wheel bearings were shot or if they were just installed incorrectly. Because these are tapered wheel bearings. The inner diameter is in two halves. There's two inner races, and if they're not seated together all the way, well, then the bearing's going to have wobble in it. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe this car has had wobbly wheels from the factory because the bearings were installed incorrectly. Or maybe my concerns about shielding and lack thereof is entirely justified, and these bearings wore out in just 900 miles. I have no way of knowing. And I have no way of knowing how long these new wheel bearings are going to last. I'm just going to have to put them in the car and try it out. Maybe I'll get thousands of trouble-free miles, or maybe I'll have to revisit these wheel bearings in just 500 miles because the wheels have wobble again. Don't know, I'm just gonna have to try it out. So let's put these buggers in the car. Before I do that, I have a replacement CV shaft to swap into here. And now in with the new one. The previous owner replaced the other CV shaft and just never got around to replacing this one. And now I'm wondering if the CV shafts were ever bad to begin with. Maybe whatever grinding or vibration or noise he was hearing was actually because of the bad wheel bearings, and he just assumed the CV shafts were bad and started replacing them. I have no way of knowing, I'm just guessing. Now let's put the rest of this area back together. Okay, now let's swap out the wheel bearing on the other side. Oh, my ratchet just broke. Oh no! Well, I guess I found the limit of this ratchet. Come out with your hands up. Oh, it worked! Now I can push in the new bearing using the old bearing as a push block, so I can apply a pressure only to the outer race, which is what I want. Actually, I put a little bit of extra grease in this wheel bearing on either side, just, I don't know, to make me feel better. I missed my power ratchet. We're good. I have one last thing to do under here, and that's top up the gearbox oil. When you take the CV shafts out, that unplugs the holes on either side of the gearbox, and some of the gearbox oil comes out. I just need to replenish that leaked out oil. Start by draining out the remainder of the gearbox oil. Now, unscrew the top drain plug to pump fluid into. Now I just stick the out end of my gearbox fluid transfer pump in there. And then start pumping in ATF until it comes out of the top hole, and then it's full. Yep, that's full. The last thing I did to my Coda, which wasn't really necessary, but made me feel better, is I washed it, clay barred it, and polished it, and I restored the headlights. I'm no detailer or anything, but it certainly looks better than it did before, which is all I really cared about. Here's before, and here's after. I spiffied it up, which is especially important on a black car on video. Now, fun fact about those headlights, those are the headlights from the parts car, because I screwed up part of the restoration process on the headlights that came out of this car, and rather than spending hours sanding the headlights to fix my mistake, I tossed them on a shelf, pulled the headlights out of the parts car over there, restored those, and put those in there. So the next time you see the parts car, the headlights on it will be incredibly cloudy, and that's why. I'll get around to fixing them one of these days. Or not. Now, I didn't fix everything that's wrong with this Coda. As far as issues that I'm aware of, the needle in the energy consumption gauge in the gauge cluster has a mind of its own. It makes a weird grinding sound. Sometimes the needle jumps off the scale. Sometimes it just sits there and doesn't do anything. And in general, it just behaves maniacally. I suspect there is just a strip gear or something in the mechanism that's wrong, but it wasn't worth tackling now. And I'm sure other issues will pop up as I use the car. But for now, this Coda is ready to roll, so I can go get it licensed, and I can go make those 2 videos that you've already seen. Thank you for watching.